Hello dears, I welcome you all to my geography class once again. So in the previous video we discussed about the rock cycle, we discussed about difference between rocks and mineral, and we have seen the characteristics of characteristics to identify minerals, right? So in today's video we'll be discussing about different types of rocks in details. So in this particular video we'll try to cover igneous rock and the sedimentary rocks. Okay, so we'll see what are the characteristics of igneous rocks and what are the different types of igneous rock based on its formation and based on the chemical composition, etc. And you see, we have already discussed about igneous rock. So igneous rocks basically formed due to the solidification of lava or magma either on the surface of the earth or below the surface of the earth, right? So as this is formed, it is formed first in the rock cycle, so they are known as primary rocks, right? So there are some characteristics of igneous rocks. So let us see what are the characteristics of igneous rock. First of all, igneous rocks are formed due to solidification of lava. Therefore they are formed at old core areas. Now old core areas means silt areas or the region of volcanic activities. So basically you see igneous rocks will be around the volcanic regions. Secondly, these are hard and resistant to erosion. So compared to other rocks like other sedimentary rocks and metamorphic rocks, igneous rocks are quite hard and takes time to erode, whether it is erosion due to the impact of water or due to heat, but it takes time. Therefore they are more durable rocks. Now thirdly, cracks and joints develops in these rocks through which most of water percolates, but generally these rocks are non-porous. So very important to note, most of these igneous rocks are non-porous rocks, right? And fourthly, igneous rocks which are formed on the surface are very fine grained. This is due to rapid cooling process of lava, whereas igneous rock which are formed at the greater depth are coarse grained as the cooling process is slow at greater depth, right? So fifth, this rock do not contain fossil fuel such as coal, crude oil, natural gas, because the igneous rock are formed due to the solidification of hot and molten lava or magma. Like in case of sedimentary rocks, basically it is formed due to it contains fossil fuel like coal and petroleum. Now igneous rocks are more affected by mechanical weathering than by chemical weathering. Very important to note, igneous rocks are basically more affected by the mechanical weathering than the chemical weathering. So about what is mechanical weathering and chemical weathering we'll be studying in the upcoming chapters about weathering. When we study about weathering, at that time we'll be learning about it. So these are some of the characteristics of igneous rocks. Now we'll see the classification of igneous rocks. Now igneous rocks are classified based on two categories. The first one is based on the place of formation or origin, and second one is the classification of igneous rock, that is based on their chemical composition. Now based on the formation or based on the place of origin, igneous rocks are classified into two categories. First one is extrusive igneous rock and second one is intrusive igneous rocks. Now what are all this, we'll be discussing in detail. Now extrusive igneous rocks, extrusive means outside, right? So these are the rocks formed on the surface of the earth. This is due to rapid cooling process of lava. Therefore these rocks are mostly crystalline. They are mostly non-crystalline, they're mostly non-crystalline. So these are also called volcanic rocks, right? So extrusive igneous rocks are also called volcanic igneous rocks. These rocks are non-crystalline rocks due to the rapid cooling of lava on the surface, right? So some of the examples of extrusive igneous rocks are basalt, gabbro, volcanic bombs are some of the examples of extrusive igneous rock. Now the intrusive igneous rocks. Now this type of rocks are formed due to the solidification of the magma. Okay, very important to note. In the first one, it is solidification of lava on the surface. This is solidification of magma below the surface. Now this hot molten magma finds space in the gaps or cracks in the rocks formation beneath the surface and solidifies there itself. This results into the formation of intrusive igneous rocks of various size and shape. They are known by different names like dike, seal, laccolith, right? Lapolith, and also we have batholith. These are some of these types of rocks that are developed beneath the earth crust. Now what are all this? We'll see one by one. Dike. Now dike is the vertical wall like formation of rock, or you can say it is a vertical intrusion of rock when the rock gets solidifies within the layer vertically. This type of formation is known as dike. Secondly, we have sill. Now sill is the horizontal sit like formation of rock. When the rock gets solidified horizontally along the layer of the soil or along the layer of the rock, then we call it as sill. Now laccolith is an oval or round shaped dome with flat base rock. Okay, dome shape rock or dome shape formation near the surface, right? Near the surface, which has flat base. Such type of formation is known as laccolith. Whereas lapolith, okay, lapolith, it has concave shape, right? It has concave shape. It also forms near the surface. So these are some of the categories of rocks which forms near the surface of the earth, not outside the surface and not above the surface. It is formed near the surface. Okay? So this type of rocks are also known as hyperbasalt rocks, right? So there are some other categories of rock, other categories of igneous rock which are formed at the greater depth. They are termed as plutonic rocks, which is named after the Greek king of the underground world, Plato. So example, batholith is the best example of a plutonic rock. Now, so plutonic rocks are termed as hyperbasalt. Okay, they are termed as below the surface of the earth but above the plutonic rock, right? Below the surface of the earth but above the plutonic rocks are termed as hyperbasalt, not hyperbasalt, it is hyperbasalt rock. Example like dike, seal, laccolith, lapolith are some of the examples of hyperbasalt rocks. Very easy and clear concept to understand. Dike, seal, laccolith, lapolith, these are hyperbasalt rock because it forms it lies below the surface of the earth and above the plutonic rock. Now example of a plutonic rocks can be batholith. So hope you have understood the types of rock based on its formation and origin. Now let us see the classification of rock based on chemical composition. Now based on chemical composition, igneous rocks are categorized in two categories. They are acidic igneous rock and basic igneous rock. Now the acidic igneous rock, which consists of which has greater percentage of silica, that is 80% of silica and 20% of magnesium and sodium, potassium, etc. So acidic rocks contains 80% of silica and 20% of magnesium, potassium and sodium, whereas basic igneous rocks has less percentage of silica, only 40% of silica, 40% of magnesium, and rest 20% like iron, aluminum, and potassium. These are some other elements that present in the basic rocks, basic igneous rock. Now this is due to the rapid cooling. In case of acidic igneous rock, 80% of silica and 20% of magnesium, sodium, and potassium. This is due to the rapid cooling of silica and the molten material which does not spread far away. Therefore it forms domes or mountain. Now basically you can see the acidic igneous rocks form dome shaped mountain because this lava solidifies very fast, due to which it forms a dome shaped structure. Whereas in this case of in case of basic lava, these lava flow for a longer distance, therefore it forms a plateau like structure. Best example for this can be Deccan Plateau. Now in case of acidic igneous rock, these rocks are lighter in color due to the greater percentage of silica. Example, granite is an example of acidic igneous rock. Whereas in case of basic igneous rock, they are darker in color due to presence of magnesium and iron. Example of basic igneous rock can be basalt, Gabro, and Dolerite. These are some of the examples of basic igneous rock. So very clear, acidic igneous rock and basic igneous rock is the classification based on the chemical composition. So acidic igneous rock contains 80% of silica and 20% of magnesium and sodium potassium, whereas basic igneous rock contains less amount of silica, 40% of silica and magnesium, and rest
Hope you have
20%
understood
iron and
the different types of igneous rock. Rest of the topic we'll be discussing in the next class. Thank you for watching.